much authoritative text is there about what is the right way of doing things, right way of living? Where is that love which comes out of wisdom and which doesn't dictate the path but walk the path with you? That love and its expression, which is open, a wonder at everything that life is and can be. Something written which is read like a children's story of Wonderland, yet it doesn't shy away from any topic saying it is too complicated. Two lives walking together, talking, observing, interacting, sharing, without any fear or boundary. It feels like some romantic imagination, right? In reality, it is just being honest and sharing without fear. It is not a compilation of soft, hollow words to soothe one into sleep, to motivate one to achieve so-called success, to ease the pain by providing a temporary crutch, but any word whether hard or soft written with an open mind. How do we get out of the maze of mind? How do I condition the mind to get what I want? How do I control the mind and become the most genius person? All one gets from others are questions based on expectations of what the answer should be. People conditioned into thinking that there are only limited ways to live. It feels like life is drained out, like something mechanical, just playing out roles which are so rigid. The meaning of life in our present times is so lifeless, so rigid, closed, mechanical, repetitive, forceful. Love is lost in the lanes of greed, desires. People are moving with rigid boxes of iron around them, rubbing against what is open and loving. That makes being open hard. Having doubt on yourself will be seen and felt as a weakness. But the other choice is to be closed, narrow-minded, self-focused, an existence devoid of any real exploration of life and is limited and bounded. Will you show some courage in really exploring what life can be, or will you just choose out of the 5, 10, 100 options given to you? If you are really ready to explore with an open mind, then these words will start to loop around your mind, just like air loops around your body. Part 1. One wants to get lost. Roads are too clear. Mind questioning the limits. Limits of oneself, of intellect, of emotions, of imagination, of thinking, of perception, of mind solving a problem it has created and being happy about it. Let us get lost in wilderness. Simplicity is a cage. Sitting in a cage the bird has built and now it is afraid of flying. What ifs? What ifs? What ifs? The mind cries, and living all what ifs in mind, the energy drains out, and it watches from the cage window, waiting for someone to free one from oneself. There is nobody else. It is a bird sitting in a cage in nothingness. The cage, nothingness, everything exists in mind. Is there more? One asks, asking not really, not from the bottom of existence, not to let go of self, but to build on self, to add another fascinating achievement to portfolio, another rare jewel to one's collection. This more means, more of same kind, more of the same money, more of same sex, more of same power. It doesn't actually mean more. What actually will be more? Something that can't be contained in words. Something which can't be derived from what one already has. Something original, new, not some iteration of same with different clothes. Are we getting the depth of these words? Think again, are we? If one is still reading, it means the meaning has been skipped. If one really has the need to know more, one will not entertain oneself with romantic words. If the question is understood, like really understood, then there will be no need to read or listen to anyone telling you the answer. It doesn't matter. Words can't reach. Love can. Being can and is. Love which is pure acceptance. There is no conflict within one's parts. It is all moving together, like it is not different. And that is it, the realization that there are no parts. It is all one. Thinking is the issue. Or the desire to control thinking. One looking at oneself with a question, am I? What is this I, which questions itself I is an issue? Or the question on whether I is. Let's remove I not through questioning it and not through accepting it, just remove it. What is left is I am mind and mind is me. With this realization one moves on stairs upwards or downwards. Doesn't matter, it is thinking and I can't stop it. It is not thinking and I can't move it. The base is same, it is not to think or stop thinking, it is control on what happens when living is being. It is effortless. Like the light which only knows to move straight. It is all a story. Story of a human. Time started when someone started the counting. We exist as each other's proof. Can we know what was before time? By definition of time or space-time, one who exists at this time can't move somewhere else to experience. If one goes deep into existence, the untouched grass of being, where parts are not discriminated, where there is no conflict, no preference, where the existence is realized as present, then one will realize that it is not to know what is beyond story, it is to know the full story. Exploration without force is exploration of being. There is no choice in that exploration. But it is pure exploration, as there is no prediction. Everything is a surprise, every moment is lived completely. The water runs down, making its own path. What it is going to touch is never touched by water before. Everything is first time, as it only knows what is. What is that a collection? Where is the starting point? What would you call or name the collection of memories happening without a starting point? That is actually the story of that drop of water. It is a story with no starting and end time. And that is the story of a human. Round and round, mind moves. Why? And round it goes again. Every question makes it move, but it can only move in a circle, so where will it move back to? The question. If questions stop, the movement will stop. This stop is not forced stop, it is just not being there, like it just vanished. How will it vanish? Are we observing this mind trying to reach there through questions? How else should I try? Where is the path? What is it? And round it goes again. Beauty doesn't lie in explanations, it doesn't lie in description of it through words, images, videos. It lies in experience, and no experience can be captured. Experience is thought moving free. It doesn't lie in preferences. A rainy day is beautiful and a sunny day is beautiful. Is there a day which is not beautiful? It is not static. It lies in its vulnerability of being dynamic, and it is beautiful because it is changing as well as being. It is and becoming both happening. A butterfly flaps its wings and everything changes. A butterfly decides to not flap its wings and everything changes to action. Or karma doesn't lie in physical, it lies in will. Physical is just manifestation of will in a form. Give me a piece of this, that too, that also. Why do I still feel empty? Why I have everything a human desires, everything a human can imagine. What is this question I asked, whose answer can't be bought? Tell me a book, a podcast, lecture, teacher, a place. Tell me to do something which doesn't make me feel empty. Looking at oneself so helpless, tears flow through eyes. A bird takes off, but it has a concept of what kind of tree it wants to sit on. It tries to match every tree that comes with the image in mind. Nothing matches it perfectly. The image in mind is created with measurements. Obviously it can never match reality. It keeps flying with shallow purpose of finding what it has imagined. Ego doesn't let it sit anywhere else. It can't stop now. Only death can end this struggle. What is life? It moves through you who is living. What is death? When the movement stops, it is death. Now does the movement ever stops? A water molecule traveling through mountains goes into ocean. It is still moving, just the name has changed. What has ended is the story of one of its forms. What was moving is still moving. A flower bloomed and everyone came to explain to each other what has happened. Someone started painting, someone writing furiously, people coming with their tools of measurements, language of any topic, science, spirituality, philosophy, art. Every tool is different and nobody actually sees the flower. Now the factions have formed. Let us fight to the end. Who is right? How will we decide who is right? What if everybody is wrong? Does it really matter now what actually is truth? Someone sitting near the flower just being. Everything from inside to outside, conscious of everything. One can be conscious of watching the world playing in oneself. In reality it is not like world playing in something. The play of what we call I with not I is your complete world. That is all one can realize. The explanation of anything other than this is futile. It is all a mystery, changing every second, no rules, no patterns, changing forms, moving in itself. Someone calls it God, someone soul, someone life. Words, just words. Love is the answer, isn't it? The realization of everything I am, is coming from outside. This humbleness is not I am humble or I have become humble. It is humble because there is no I, or the I has realized that it is completely derived from relationships with world. Letting go is not a one-time process as collecting from outside is being human, so letting go keeps happening with collection. This movement is actually life, and this is realized again and again. Now it is complete movement of thought. Let us try a different way. God is God because it is accepted by what is not God. Value in concepts is derived from its acceptance in the user of concepts like currency, brands, diamonds, etc. If we understand this, then isn't the one accepting equally powerful? My story will not exist if nobody accepts it. The story is manifested in relationships. What one is actually the love accepted by others. We are all under the weight of our own stories, our own past. If you carry gold bricks on a trek, it doesn't matter if it is gold. What will matter is the weight. In the same way, the weight of a story is still weight. It doesn't matter if it is a billionaire's story or a poor's, if it is one named Indian, American, Chinese. If it is a winner's story or a loser's. Whoever is reading this, don't you feel the boundaries, the limited possibilities? Clay getting molded in fixed patterns. Even if we invent creative excuses or reasons of not letting go of our weight, we do feel the limitations one time or other. The point gets lost in imaginative scenarios mind creates. After realizing this, the weight is needed for survival. What other option is there? Is it possible to actually get rid of weight? It is better to manage the weight more efficiently than trying to get rid of it. I like my weight even it kills me. It never ends. The only end is to face it. What can or can't? The only way to answer this absolutely is to do it and find out. Honesty about the question to oneself will be the fuel of life. I keep doubt and question with me, realizing the difference between knowing and believing constantly. This is the only honest way to live the story. What goes outside, comes inside too. The hate, judgment which goes out for others, it will exist for oneself also. What actually happening there is not any exchange, it is just aggressive vibrations. What happens when one is angry, hateful, other than the mental story which is different for different people? It is just manifestation in the form of intense release of energy. Love which goes out, comes in too. So in reality the concept of self-love is not about you, it is about how much love is given out. There is no difference between loving someone else or loving self. It is just love. It doesn't have direction like anger doesn't have directions. Do we realize that words doesn't have any inherent effect other than utterance of a sound, and the meaning only exists in the limit accepted by the one hearing it? What is written here, its real meaning, only exists in the limits of acceptance of reader. Can we say now, or have we understood, that the feeling of love is not directional? If the feeling is generated inside you by whatever means, it will be there for self as well as others. Will you let go of yourself just for a moment, for a second? Don't try to hold anything that needs efforts, whether you are a teacher, leader, son, daughter, male, female, INFP, INTJ, an introvert, extrovert, secular, Chinese, English, rich, poor, dog lover, cat lover, beautiful, ugly, feminist, racist, science believer, religion believer, a village person, a city person, mainstream, offstream, whatever it is. The labels attached to this infinite being of yours, this effort to control the infinite love, is not a choice, it is melting away in other. I love you means there can be I don't love you or I hate you. Remove I and you, that is what love is. Love exists where there is no I and you, or there can be both I and you where both exist without friction, like the dance of tree and light, like inhale and exhale. When it exists in harmony, then there is a sense in it, an order in it, and in order there are no separations. Let us sit sometime when the boundaries of time are not that strict, when the fear is less, so that we don't have to hide ourselves when it is time to rest after running for so long. Let us shed the heavy armor we have gathered, like a man after fighting a day of war, torn, bruised, tired, like a woman after a day of giving, caring for others, exhausted the entire day. You have defeated unknown enemies. The struggle to keep the story going, to verify it constantly by others. Let us sit with what all you really are and what all I really am. It is not the resume, it is not the appearance, it is not the data you and I know. How will we know if other is holding the boundary without first removing our own boundary? How will we understand your scars if we keep holding them under shiny covers? See what they really are. Let us sit with everyone: the earth, sun, clouds, stars, trees, birds. and humans let us all sit together naked, without boundaries as one plays with another the game of life. There is a middle ground is overlap, place of openness, of no conflict, where things are understood by hinting. It is the same place around a bonfire where laughter sounds higher than music, where being me is just effortless, where silence doesn't feel like something empty, where I is not imposing, both on myself and other. That is the place we need to be to really have a conversation. Language is not learned just through grammar. The meaning lies in the stories, mind and body together. It can happen in any way, the way of love, kindness, anger, hatred, silence, movement. It is any way which has reached its destination, any way followed to its end. To reach end of one is to reach end of everything. We have all experienced it, yet it is not here because we have not accepted it. It is nonsense. It is intuition, a direction without a point. Thought grows like a tree, don't let it grow, but it is thought's nature to grow. Now one is fighting against oneself, a tree trying not to be a tree, sun trying not to be sun. What burns can only burn, what flows can only flow. This inner conflict of mind to not accept a part of you, or you not accepting yourself the way you are, this tryst of a human to force things to only accept what it understands. The problem is not that thought grows, the problem is to control whether it grows, how it should grow, where it should grow. In the end, the absolute end, there will be just one question, not what is life, not what is mind, but who is asking all of these questions. Who am I? What is this I? Filled with questions, that is the final or the deepest where logic can reach. I questioning I, mind questioning itself. This is the territory where words have to be written with utmost care. Beyond this is where one is alone. Who am I? Can someone else tell me this? Who am I can only be answered by the one questioning it. The absolute understanding of this question is the answer, the realization of loneliness in this concept of I, the realization of limits, the realization that thought can't reach it, the realization that nothing done by mind is helping. When the meaningless, the absolute meaningless is realized, there is nothing holding or constricting, there are no attachments. That is the moment of death, that is the moment of life. It is absolute silence, and it is all the sounds that can exist. It in itself is life. There is no method, no stare anymore, being absolutely in present, realizing the stupidity, or rather the childishness of mind. Now we don't fight. If one wants, the other yields. If one goes right, the other goes right too. There is no conflict anymore, there is no two, it is one. It is awareness of everything. That is the rain, river, snow, sea. Isn't it all water? The sound of raindrops is not actually sound of rain, it is dance of raining surface, and rain too can dance in infinite ways, something that is manifesting in infinite forms, and the forms dance together, making what is can't exist without forms, and forms can't exist without is. That is how everything just moves together. A day transforms into night, or a night transforms into day. Day and night exist in this transformation. Can one look this as something existing in two forms of day and night? Yes, we can, and this something is you in whom day and night are manifesting, you who holds the entire universe inside. The question is not outward, it is inward. Understanding universe means understanding you. All of you is entire humanity, as somehow there is commonality. The commonality extends outward, centered around I. The I is what it has collected. There is no choice really in what is being collected. The effort to make it a choice is suffering. It is continuous, yet the best I can do is pixels. It is infinite, yet the best I can do is numbers. The boundaries of karma, making it good and bad, making it successful and failure, making it useful and useless. All the weights hanging on that one action. Dharma is not the weights, it is the flow of karma. When the weights are gone, it is not a fixed path, it is not defined for one in isolation. The action here is not just physical, it includes everything tangible and intangible. Mind is childish, mind is stubborn, mind is moody, mind is a monkey. It doesn't listen, it doesn't talk, it moves when it moves and stops when it stops. It needs attention, it needs love, it needs to be accepted. Now it is what it is. The choice is clear, to keep fighting it or let it win. Let it be what it does without judgment. Only love can reach where nothing can, only love can touch what is. Your defenses can only be put down from inside. Any forceful attempt from outside will only result in more defenses, not less. Will you let these words enter? Or will you just treat it as some ink on paper? We are not literally talking about words. All the words here, whether consciously or unconsciously, are pointing in some direction. The words are open, let you decide the direction. Love doesn't impose, love only exists in acceptance. Somebody wrote and somebody is reading. If the words came out without friction and they are accepted without friction, then this relationship is love. We are not used to love, though. We are used to somebody imposing their perspectives through authority. We are used to being told who we are, and who we should be. So even love irritates us. It is better to have hate which is predictable than love which is vulnerable. If you are reading with expectation of answers to yourself from outside, then my love, it can't be done my way, can't be your way. An apple only knows how to be an apple. Mango has to figure out itself what being mango is. There is deep loneliness in thinking. The sharp wires of logic cut deep, the walls keep on closing closer and closer to what flows. What has boundaries is by definition lonely. Its definition, its existence lies in isolation, separation. One plays card games with people, but it is not a play where everyone wants to be the character of winner. It is a race, it is a comparison, it is me versus her. It is putting myself up and putting other down. That is where the boundary gets defined. Boundary is not only physical, one of walls, rooms, apartments, buildings, society, city, state, country, planet, galaxy. It is also a mental one of what I can be and can't be. These mental boundaries we carry with ourselves, so we feel lonely even in midst of life. Has the boundary been defined from inside or outside? It is a continuous balance, I fear, and it reduces its boundary and world instantly occupies the space left open. I love and it expands and the world creates space for it. A cage is a cage, no matter how fancy it is, how big it is, and any cage will ultimately render you lonely. When you try to catch infinite, what can happen? Either you will be consumed or you will be freed. It is the difference between laughing at you and laughing with you. When one laughs with, there is no I, it has now become infinite. The limitations of self are the efforts by us to isolate, to separate, to make it easy for us to understand. When we understand, or we feel we understand, we feel a sense of superiority over what is understood. It is ownership, where something is the owner and something is being owned. But infinity can't be owned. What can own clouds? What can own space? Yet we keep playing in our minds this game of this is mine and this is yours, my love, my house, my property, my music, my thoughts. It is a spider trapped in its own web. It saw it can build web and get food to survive, and in the madness of greed, the arrogance of its ability, it built a web everywhere, and soon there was no space for anything else, just a spider trapped in its own web. A dance of sound, a dance of light, a dance of space. And all of this combined is the dance of one observing this. It is the dance of consciousness. What is conscious is what is, that is world, and that is one observing the world. What can happen? How does one realize the limits of it? If you think with me, isn't that the entire quest to realize the limits? The exploration of a water droplet is what manifests in sea, clouds, ice, snow, river, lake, and all of that. And if you permit to let us go deeper, the water droplet is also exploration of something, the something whose exploration is everything, is life. I accept the direction given by other, acceptance without doubt. If there is tightness, the direction is to move out. If there is emptiness, the direction is to expand. If there is too much sound, the direction is to be silent, to listen. Now all of these are romantic words. It is a thin line we have to walk in execution. It requires tremendous sensitivity, and then to not get afraid to follow the intuition. But if all of this is done through thinking, through logic, then it is just imitation. Natural vibration is vibration which requires no efforts in maintaining. The vibration of becoming is on top of vibrations of being. It is not natural and requires continuous energy. Even if the energy is not an issue, mind and body get tired, but we can't let it rest, as it is a race. So we squeeze every last drop till a breakdown of fever or depression happens. These are both natural ways of balancing, but we don't even have time to reset it naturally, and we keep dancing, tired, no expression, through tea, coffee, weed, cigarettes, alcohol, pills. Like something dancing in its own funeral. Love is doubt. The moment someone becomes certain, boundary creates separation. It creates isolation. Identity as a concept depends on isolation and the separation. Boundary, isolation creates conflict, but doubt won't sell products. It won't create followers, fans, believers, supporters. Watch around you, reflect inward and outward. Would you listen to a guy saying I know, or a guy saying I know it can't be known? Confidence is valued more than honesty or humbleness. Results are valued more than methods. Power is valued more than kindness. Control is valued more than freedom. We will rather have a statue/photograph of Buddha than having nothing. When something is valued more than nothing, then love starts vanishing. When someone starts defending, any explorer will look like an attacker. Comfort of certainty is cozy, but it is addictive, and slowly it becomes a cage. Doubt is the only gate keeping the cage open. Any opening means it can be transformed. Comfort of certainty and fear of change paralyzes one. The form hardens and becomes less flexible the more it conforms. Hardness is moving to death and flexibility is life. Isn't that is why silly things have more life? It is more fun to go outside the lines than the opposite. Life lies in kindness, in being open, being patient like a snail, living time to its deepest. Every moment, every second sense to the fullest, living which takes death with it. Life is here in this moment of ink being forced through this page, and the moment it got registered in reader's mind. This movement from me to you is life. It doesn't exist in just me and just you. Silence in thoughts is bliss. It is peace. Peace is not absolute inaction. Peace is being in harmony. It is peace of efforts, being in natural flow around you. Space is endless, yet mind tries to put its boundaries on space, and this entire quest is recorded in time. Is the mountain not there if it is covered by clouds? For the one in present, it is not yet. One who has recorded it in memory will say, it is there, I know it. Then someone tries to settle the dispute and they all move towards it. All three reach to the mountain. The one being in present will say, it was not in past, it is in present. Is there any dispute on what is present? The dispute is always on what was. It is recorded memory. Time moves the concept of time only to verify the memory of past. The real time moves with present. A bird sang, someone heard it. The song only exists when someone heard it. The awareness of an experience is the experience. There is no space-time, there is only present. As I am writing it, there is a constant to and fro. I want you to read it, but I also understand the limitations of words. The thought castle of ego builds so fast. See, there is already an assumption of a reader, already an assumption of importance of the words, and through correlation a projection builds into future, and that projection starts influencing the words. Like right now, you know. The flow is this: to go wherever it takes you, to write whatever is being written. We crave control of mind, but the answer lies in being with mind. Clouds playing hide and seek with the mountain. Every moment is new and every moment is beautiful. Trees have come alive between the mountain and clouds. The birds are singing along with river. If we remove man-made contraptions, everything is effortless, gentle, loving. Trees are full of cherries. Everything is so beautiful by just being itself. A rose, vulnerable, bright, deep fragrance. An apple tree, small yet strong, efficient. Crows, dark, hiding, deep voice. All of this is romanticism of mind, but underneath there is a realization that this is it, both heaven and hell. A story is thought going on a journey. The play with thoughts, plays with emotions. It is an exploration inside oneself, exploration of not what is really new but what feels like new. One explores ways of how one's own story can be, or to feel comfort of validation by noticing the similarities. The entire story is how one's own parts are connected. It is reflection of self onto a changing screen. This entire book is a story, and it is reflection of my own relationships with world, and what you are understanding is your reflection of these words based on your relationships with world. Just the existence of someone saying something evokes fear in us. The first reaction is to judge it. Is it in my favor or opposition? When the fear gets so deep that one is even afraid of living. This is not a judgment. This is not to measure yourself against some IQ standards or some spiritual milestones. This is a journey, a conversation we are having. This is not some absolute statement which we can't be part of. Whatever you are, whatever makes you move, that is what these words are. The water droplets on rose shine like sun. Apple trees are playing a mild visual music. Sun plays with apple, and the shadow of this play plays with earth. It is endless, everything dancing in their own ways. And then comes human, defining what is dance and what is not, defining what is music and what is not, giving marks, judging, evaluating constantly. Money is one such parameter. Fame, power, are ways to measure one against other. Anything that makes us deviate from our definition of perfection, we call it disease. Mind should work like this, and any deviation will be mental disease. Physical body should be like this, and any deviation from that will be physical disease if one observes carefully. Life comes from death. What we are calling disease is actually life happening. Every life form is fighting for its own survival. We are virus to something else, just like corona is virus to us. So play the game of life we must, but with the understanding that whether we kill for our own survival or something kills us for its own survival, there is no right and wrong. It is just life happening. Fear stops the mindful movement. It is urgency, so one stops relying on thinking out the scenarios and relies more on reaction, memory of past. Everything tries to become instinctive. What is suppressed by thinking will come out as reactions. Reactions don't have intelligence. It is just stored data of past. It is not directional, so it is not selective. The subjective nature of life will be gone in a roundabout way. Fear shows us the truth, just that there is nobody to see it at that time. Fear shows the reality, but one's eyes are closed due to fear only. Hey, how are you doing? Yes, you who is reading, how are you? Let's pause this conversation and observe around us and inside us. Slow down and see around you, every little detail of the room, balcony, living room. Listen to every sound. You may not be able to listen to micro ones. Let the mind settle. How do you feel in hands, feet, stomach, head? Let us just sit with each other in silence, just being in present. Did you just saw these as dots, or did you slowly looked at each one following the other? There is a deep silence behind all of this noise. Let us just observe both inside and outside. Let us live this moment in its deepest. Do you feel the sun? Or the sound of the bird, or sound of night insects? Do you feel your heartbeat, feeling the immense pressure on it and realizing the fickle nature of life? Lie down and relax. There is air all around you as a blanket. Remove those walls around you and entire space is yours. There is an energy dancing inside you. Let us just observe. What is it you are holding? Let us share. We can start with simpler things slowly, one step after another. Let us fill this silence with beauty, beauty of a heart opening up, the light from inside. Let loose. There is something about these moments. The heart is touched, fear is overcome, and warmth of love is felt. May not today, maybe tomorrow. Patience. Let us see how it unfolds. What is, that is real treasure. Just be. Breathe in a silent valley of consciousness. There lies tension of friction, an excess of energy, of an attempt to stop the flow of a river, to transform infinite into finite. Only insides can be known. It can only know itself, and it is distracted by its own creations in games it has created. Living in knots, knots lie in polarities, something stretched from both directions. Love is when one lets go. Why acceptance is difficult? Because it means accepting both love and hate. Why letting go is difficult? Because it means letting go of both fears and desires. Why silence is difficult? Because it means saying no to both sweetness and bitterness, both music and noise. Why contentment is difficult? Because it means letting go of both dreams and nightmares. It can't happen just one way. Letting go of past means letting go of everything. It is absolute. One story gets born. Story will always have constraints, as constraints define different. You are a hero in your own story. You don't need to prove it, even when the world is constantly doubting. This is not to build up arrogance, but to move forward with humbleness. Yes, we can move forward with truth. Yes, we can move forward with kindness. I know the measuring mind will put forward that most people are not like that, that you won't be successful like that, but you must have noticed that success is not enough, money is not enough, power is not enough. When the end will come, what would matter? The expression of contentment on your face, number of hearts who will carry your love, your way of being now. This remembrance is not the forced remembrance of dictators whose names are carried due to fear and not due to love. Your world is all in your head. You have accepted the role in your story. Either exercise this willpower of acceptance to change the role, or accept the role completely. It will be hard. The way of love is hard, but in the end, with the scars on you, when death will come, the real death of this form, there will be peace in heart. We must keep moving forward, even with the fear, hate, anger, even with the ignorance. Change starts with one. Let us start with the common parts and slowly move to the center. If not now, tomorrow, maybe even not. Then it is the love action which counts. Part 2. We start with blank again to question what is assumed, to know what is forced and what is natural. The thought that was on a journey, a trip, an assumption and prediction of future, what has turned in a routine, a predictability, a comfort zone, the weight of memories and attachments, the layers mind has collected on top of what is. Let me dissolve again. Will you please let me be nobody? Your path is my path. My freedom lies in your hands. We need to let go to really have it. Only then we can know what one really has. To hear the sound of raindrops from fresh, to really see. We need to separate the romanticism from the substance, reality from the opinion/perspective, to see our bubbles separate from infinity. I really don't know why I am writing. Something feels different though, an ease into silence, just trying to share how I see it, how this is peaceful, sensitive. Both of us are trying to walk together, how we both know we can never know each other, yet we are trying to communicate. I want to be stupid with you, to play the game of life with everyone, where we are together without fear, where silence is bearable. The only way feels like writing. Here the mind can reach the experience, and a semblance of that experience are these words. Semblance derived from our common understanding. Something is trying to live through these words. It doesn't need to try, yet its existence lies in trying. What does it mean to be a human? In the words that are known and the common understanding, being human is how human has made sense of everything. It is not the sense we are referring here. It is the way of making sense, sum total of perception, thinking, acting, instincts, emotions, all of it. Looking at it from another way, it is the process of creating intelligence. There is wood, and arrangement of wood in a certain way is table. The difference between two is the intelligence or the meaning. And the possibility of this intelligence is human existence. In the words of our times, this is thinking. Thinking here is not just the forced thoughts. It also includes instincts, breathing, heart beating, beliefs, and the illogical. We can look at it in a more simple way. The paper with some marking is defined as money. A child looks at it and it sees it all, the paper, the markings, and all that can be experienced from it. Yet something is missing. It is the assignment of value, assignment of meaning to that paper. That meaning is what we are referring here, creation of this meaning to be exact. Humanity is the ability to create meaning, order, sense in its own unique way. Now there is nothing superior or inferior in making sense of it one way or another. In fact, we all make sense of world in our own unique ways, like right now you are making sense of these words in your unique way. Life is both this uniqueness and the shared overlap, where something is understood from what the writer has intended, but it still has uniqueness of the reader. It is the same between one human and other, and it is the same between human and nature. For example, if one is trying to make sense of space, we can look at it as infinite straight lines originating from a point, or infinite concentric circles. There can be infinite ways to make sense of it, like if we remove the reference center point, then we can also look at it as parallel lines, dots, etc. Are we together? I am trying to separate what is from how one can make sense of it. The option E is what is, and A, B, C, D are ways of making sense. E can be looked as empty or full. It can be zero or sunya, and it can be infinity or singularity. In a sense, E is what is. A, B, C, D are what you can call perspectives, ways of making sense, different forms of intelligence. Let us move further. The same way different human can look at it differently, yet still there is overlap. That overlap lies in something fundamental. That fundamental which is shared is the essence of being human. The word essence means the intangible. It is the intelligence of a human, and the more closer word which is accepted these days is consciousness of a human. Let us deconstruct or look at this answer to the original question in the same way. Let us apply what we have understood from the words on the words themselves. Then we will realize, all that we have understood together is also trying to make sense of the world. It is like one of the A, B, C, D options. It is a viewpoint, a way of explaining, a way of pointing towards E. If we can see beyond layers of intelligence that are A, B, C, D, then E also lies in A, B, C, D. Now realizing that A has E too, and seeing it all together, that is the full form of human consciousness. Meaningless, that which can't be understood. What does it mean? It means that it doesn't mean who knows what that means. I can just try to write what I feel. There is no way to know what you understood. The stark realization of words. It is because words don't mean anything. It is a symbol of an experience. I can't describe the weirdness of experience, the randomness of realization, so I picked the closest word in my mind. It is not about the words, it is about the flow. The sum total of individual meanings is not the meaning of whole being. Closed in oneself brings conflict. Sometimes one is closed because of one's desire, and sometimes it is fear of society at work in loops. Any aggression, violence, hate, judgment gives birth to more aggression and judgment. My father only received aggression, judgment, so now he can only give that. Somebody bombs the house and parents of a child. Who is going to answer that child? And maybe the one bombing, killing, destroying has only received hate, judgment, loneliness, or maybe he/she is closed from arrogance, too sure that he/she is right whenever anybody was too sure that his/her way is the only way. There is no room for doubt. Completely closed in one's own world. It has brought great suffering to everyone. Someone killed, destroyed, raped people because of a particular identity, and that fear, hurt, suffering passed down produces again the conditions to do it to someone else. An intolerant society can only produce intolerance, and that intolerance Again produces intolerant people who start the next loop. There are no questions. The clarity of physical and mental, the superimposition of them. One doesn't exist without other. Most of us exist in small physical borders, yet in mental we live through so much. Mental is thinking, the intangible, that by which we have defined time, that by which we have defined ownership, relationships, morality, borders, identities. That what is called physical is seen through mental, and all that is mental is derived from physical perception. The human suffering is being human. The abilities of imagination can help you enjoy a fantasy book, but it can also paralyze one with fear of what can happen. The ability of questioning can help in exploration, by which we figured out what is edible, by which we figured out fire. The same ability of questioning can make one question oneself: who am I? Everything that is thought for good can be used for bad. The intention doesn't matter, yet we can't stop ourselves to solve a problem. We will create another problem. The issue is not of action or no action, it is the emptiness inside, with or without action. As one lives life, the desire of a time might become necessity. Later one wanted to photography, write a novel, live in nature, travel, and action born out of a will to explore life, but slowly it starts conforming to a pattern, a habit, either by a desire for more or to fit in current human system. It is how deeper habits are born based on the current value system. We might label them good or bad on a deeper level. It is just a limitation. The moment an action is born out of a reaction, the choice is gone, and life will feel more and more like a burden. So one constantly need to filter, to reset, to find again the will. The limitations, boundaries of the human system will always be there. Still it needs to be constantly questioned for the boundaries not to become suffocating. It is the balance, interplay between one's inner voice and outside. There is a role everybody has to play, but don't let the role be stagnant. Take a deep breath, realize what is needed and what is not, remove the things not required anymore, lighten the load. The purpose, meaning of life is not a one-time thing, it is constantly adjusting, questioning, and adapting. Remember, life is exploration of what can be based on what is. As the wind plays with one mildly cold in open nature, words just fly by. The realization that world is not just in thoughts, thoughts of what is in space, aliens, technology, what is termed as future, thoughts of what was in past, of oneself and all ancestors. All of that is there, yet the wind washes it all down, and what remains is harmony in oneself. What is written here is nothing new, it has been communicated and refreshed again and again throughout time. Words have been told which in that time would mean now. The meaning is lost. That is why even with all of these words there is no inner peace. We think the power lies in words, but the real power lies in one who decides the meaning. The repetition of the word when there is expectation / prediction of output is just sound and nothing else. Words can only reach where thought can, where logic / rational can. It is the human story, yet to observe the entire story one needs to come out of it first. I am not good with words. Any way of writing is only assent. Remember, oh, but remembrance can be a problem. One doesn't need to do anything. Doing means what comes over the top. Just be in this collection of characters. Let there be a character like you. There is nothing to be had other than the realization of it being a story in mind, and still it is everything. One doesn't need to prove anything to anyone, not out of arrogance but out of love for life. All of these words are written with love. It is all how I have made sense of everything, and the words are what can be shared. All of it crumbles in words, though on one side it is, one doesn't need to prove anything, and on other side, everything you are is because of it. It is realization of how the only way to share right now is words, but the words can only mean if we agree on it. Maybe all the words are wrong, all of it is stupid. Let us remove all that romanticism and see these words as something personal being shared without any authority. There is peace inside which I have never experienced before, and that is all I am trying to share. Life happens in present, whether it is laughter, fear, lust, any thought, it is always in present when one is sharing. Like an experience, is that person more into reliving the experience of past in his / her mind, or that experience is just a way to share something in present? It is whether the movement of words is outside or inside, how much one is opened when sharing. Dogs so peaceful among all that is happening, sun shining bright, the flies running, exploring, flying, the wind dancing with plants, the birds with all of their songs, and all of that is just there, but one's attention is so narrow in its own thoughts. Attention bound by boundaries. Would you say this is missing on life, of all that life can be, or all that life is at that moment? Living life means living full, the sensitivity, the vulnerability, the openness, the acceptance. Living life is realizing that life can't exist in isolation. One is a collection which can make sense, and there is no collection which doesn't. When the weight, memory of past and worry, planning, imagination of future, it all reduces to this moment. That is why one feels alive in Adventures one feels alive in orgasms one feels alive in newness one feels alive in focus, concentration those moments reduces one's spread in past and future to present there is a scent of life in those moments the spread of oneself in past and future takes efforts a point spread to a line requires so much effort what is really there is this point the present now the experience the ability to somehow feel that the present can be remembered, is being human the ability to feel that one can predict what the present can be, is being human in that sense human consciousness lies in this the sense of world in past, present, future imagine if life can manifest in infinite forms every form making sense of world in their own way this making sense can be termed as consciousness this consciousness relative to form is life all of these words are not truth it is way of making sense of present in one's limited capabilities an effort to create an order in present state of human consciousness the only absolute is I don't know that there is no absolute ingredient which then combine in different forms it is not like there is something like life, which is then put in physical forms it is something which only exists in forms but every form is its form or it there is nothing which is not it's something moving in itself something playing with itself now looking at the entire picture like this there is no absolute meaning to life there are no measurements what remains is love something not done solely for self when we realize that one's world lies in self-reflection then the love is, love for self and in reciprocity it is love for other when touching others' heart, we touch parts of ourself the direction of one's life should be love there only can be a direction as only direction lies in present this shining of love is just being yourself least amount of efforts be you until you don't is the answer what is the truth? In my exploration of words so far, the only way to hint at the answer to this question is the word present. Although we can then again go in next problem of defining this word present. Present is a word which humans have an intuitive understanding of. This understanding is not logic-based. It is undeniable. Just by being, by living, by even a smallest acknowledgement of life, one can't deny present. Present is the word/concept which survives the contradictions of human mind. It is, yet it is constantly changing. It is, but by the time mind tries to contain it, it has already changed. Something which doesn't have an opposite, that is present. There is a movement back in past, a movement further in future, when there is no movement that is present. If somebody logically tries to place it, it will be impossible. Present is the only thing that exists outside of duality, duality is existence of opposites. Present is the only thing that exists outside scientific definition of time, it is a point, not an interval, even maths and science can only point to it, hint to it. Let us see even a more easy way to look at it. There is present. Can you describe it? The moment you think, it is already past. I know it is wordplay but isn't it interesting that there exists a word/concept with no explanation? Writing all of this is also wordplay, we are not actually looking at meaning or the existence of words. We are using the shared accepted meaning of our time to point to something. In the sense that we have built till now present is the exact state of being. It is the constantly changing reference yet in a sense it is absolute. Present is hinted by a lot of different ways. Like the snake eating its own tail. It is not complete circle, it is not an incomplete circle. It is the incomplete circle tending towards full circle. Love, people will tell you a lot of different things. It is like this, it is like that. This is right, this is wrong. But love, nobody can tell you how you are, what you are. Nobody can tell you what is possible, what is not. You know, everybody have been through what you are going through. We all had lots of questions. All of us had to figure it out ourselves. People described to me what a river has been, what it is, what it can be. But you know it is not even a fragment of it. When you sit near a stream, it has the power to melt all inside you, when you dip your feet and take a bath it will freeze all inside you. The infinity of nature can't be told. The infinity of life can't be told. This is my heart to you, my love to you, let's share my slice of life with you. The beauty I see in a flowing river with you. The answers I found of all questions of life. All the love, beauty, peace I found in life. I am trying to share all that with you. People will tell you what life is, how it should be lived. According to me, nobody can tell you what your definition of life should be. A flower's definition of life is to blossom, a river's definition is to flow, a sun's definition is to shine. Find out what you are. Life is both the journey and destination of finding yourself. One can get lost if one is too focused on the end point, and one can get lost if one is stagnant. Nothing lasts in life, so sacrificing present for future has no end. When there is sunny day, if one wishes for rain, and when it is raining if one wishes for sun, then one can never be content. Content in what is. The only thing one needs to live is honesty. Honesty to yourself. When your heart won't be tied down by knots of contradictions, it will bloom and fragrance of love will spread. You must have realized by now that it is not the most opted option to doubt yourself. To start with, I don't know requires lots of courage. The biggest mountain to climb is inside. Honesty means and defines the only way to move. A river honest to itself flows like the most beautiful being. To someone calculating life in numbers, it might feel dangerous or tame way of living. But it is what it is. It is indifferent, and that indifference or the ability to be unbiased can only be based on honesty. None of these words have power without experience, so you should experience it yourself. Words like all creations of thought are limited by mind who means them. All of these words are romance, it is not the substance. Human existence has revolved around a substance. There is a possibility of life if one stopped trying so hard. The force applied to live, coming out of the desire for permanence, in a world which is fleeting, produces friction. It is not to doubt this movement to live, it is to doubt this desire of perfect control. Think about it, we constantly find problems, challenges to entertain ourselves. If there is some real problem, one doesn't need to find it. It will eventually find you. There are so many layers of desire on the core. The only way to experience is to let it go. One is flying a kite. It requires constant pulling and pushing. Will the kite fly if one doesn't apply the efforts? The only way to answer is to let it go. Have you seen a bird just flying? It only flaps when necessary. Then it just steadies itself relative to wind and it flies even without applying much efforts. If thought or thinking is living, then we should let the thought loose and see where it goes. The movement of thought is infinite, what is finite is the control of where it should go and where it shouldn't. If life is exploration, then by no way it can be realized by control. Human memory, human history, the intelligence, the knowledge, the story, it is only useful and meaningful to a human. Only human intelligence can make sense of it. It is the shared experience of everything that is what you are. Don't get stuck in the weight of the past. It is your choice of what sense you make out of it. It feels like past was paved by a handful, but that is just a biased way of looking at it. Think about it, do you know the name of human who learned to walk, who learned how to start fire, who learned how to swim, who learned cooking, farming, who tasted everything to find out what is edible? Now tell me, will any of the history makers of today will even survive without this? Existence is not defined just by a billionaire, by the famous, by the powerful, it is equally defined by the poor, by the powerless. When we acknowledge that even the flapping of a wings by a butterfly has the capability to change entire world, why is then there is a hierarchy in the value of life? In defining which life is more important and which is not. From where does this self-centered and corrupt view of life came from? Have you realized by now that our entire existence is borrowed from the past? If one realizes this, then the ego of I own this, I have done this will melt away by itself. One will become humble, thankful for everything that is there. Humble to both what human thought has produced and to all that is outside of human thought. The real value of anything is realized when one removes the glass of judgment and see for oneself. All of these words stop at some point. All of these are ways one can approach life. One can start from anywhere, walk any path, as long as there is honesty and one keep walking, it will reach where these words are pointed at. You know, the world that everyone exists in, is actually a limited personal world. It allows one to define one's own definition of life, but that can go the other way too. If one exists in one's own world, then there can be conflict, there can be loneliness. The power to interpret life with a sense of ego, arrogance, certainty results in friction with others who have their own sphere of life. I can see it clearly, so let me try if it can be communicated clearly here. I is the data collected from childhood till now, both directly through experience and indirectly through books, stories, etc. One's own world lies in reflection of the entire collection. Someone who has never flown in an aeroplane still has some concept about flying. It is what an aeroplane and flying means to them. Maybe they think of it in terms of how a bird flies. Somebody who has read about aerodynamics and the science behind it will look at it in completely different manner. And then someone who has actually flown through one will see it as completely different. The same thing means different to different people based on their lives, what they have collected. The image of what is external comes from what is inside. If we have reached here, understood it at least logically, then we can go on to the next part of the problem with human existence. We can't live in isolation, and when we have to interact with anyone else, we go by the only guidance available to us, that is, the sense of the world in one's mind. The limited sense which one has collected. It is an impossible task, so to make some order in it we created systems. System of language, of morality, religion, science, constitution, law, and order. All the systems are inherently based on one simple objective, to create order. Like I am writing now and the reader is getting a perception of the meaning. This interaction, or sharing, or communication is done through the framework of language. If one actually look deeply into it, then one will realize that even with all of these frameworks, one can never tell what the other has understood. I have used the power or the intelligence of all of these frameworks, still I have no idea what you are getting from it. Now if one understand this, like really understand it, then the framework will only be used as a help or with some doubt. One will never ever give the absolute status to any framework, whether it is science or religion. But do you observe what is happening now? There is no place left for doubt now. And that's where human suffering lies. In this desire to be absolute, to be completely certain. That is the root of ego, of right and wrong. Where everyone is different, different way of understanding life, and everyone is 100% certain that their perspective, their understanding is the right one. Combine that with the fact that we have to live together. Now everyone wants to prove they are right and other is wrong. Having doubt is considered as weak, and anything weak and vulnerable will be removed by force. Do you understand now the reason of all human suffering? This is what I have understood in my limited capabilities. So much of what I am sharing depends on words which in themselves are limited, and even the words come from limited experience. Still I am trying based on the feeling of love. What if this makes some sense to even one person, and the conflict, the fight, the comparison is reduced by a little bit? Why do I keep coming back to love? Because it is the only way to really share. What is named love is the state of openness. You know, I am sharing all of these words. But they are all useless. I don't know anything special. The only thing I know, and that also just for myself, is that it can't be known, there is no absolute meaning. It hurts me to see people putting themselves down because they don't know a language, they are not educated enough, they are not tall enough, not fair enough. The various ways I am finding are ways by which you again arrive at the conclusion that there is no absolute. Everything is a story. The entire human history is a story. The entire history of my existence is also a story. The story is playing in one's own mind. Love is the most beautiful way a human can exist. What people say as the highest form of consciousness is not intelligence or memory usage, it is the state of love. The highest form of one is when one stop putting efforts in it. Natural way of being is the highest form of being. And one doesn't need to apply any efforts if it's natural. Does a rose have a choice to not be rose, to stop being so beautiful, to stop smelling so good just because someone will pluck it? For these is there a choice till the time there is life? Live to the most deepest, be you, just be. There is no other option anyways. Love is the only way to define true movement of life, the purpose, the reason of life's existence. Love for everyone is love for yourself. Nothing can fill you. How love does anyone who is searching, who has tried to fill themselves and still feels empty? Try love. Love will fill you. When you give, the more you will love, the more will come. It never ends, as there are no boundaries of logic in love. Love is the universe of a human, the entirety of a human. When there is no limitation, no pressure, no efforts, no boundaries, then the self dissolves into other and something that is both fleeting yet is born permanent. Love is when out of two choices of owning other to boost yourself or dissolving yourself for other, you select none, because love is never a choice. The way some search for answers, some don't. Is the question fundamental or the answer fundamental? Anyone who has arrived has not arrived, because the goalpost is constantly changing. Doing and undoing has to happen together, and for it to happen in the sense of magic, a coincidence. There can't be a path, it has to be the natural way, a way not derived by logic. It can't be someone else's way. The way depends on where you are. When everyone is at a different point, the way of others can't be used. Look at it this way: one says that in words, but the other can only look how they have arrived at the question. The mountain keeps changing, so the way needs to be new. The mountain is personal, and to climb one needs to stop looking outward. In the end, there is no mountain to climb, one is already there. You just need to let go of the image of mountain and the paths in your mind. I write because words are given, because words are there, words of right and wrong, words of life and death, words of me and nature, words of religion and science. Words can only undo what words have created. My words are words of the time, words to think and words to stop thinking. It is a useless exercise. Somebody creates a word and the other destroys it. It is not the word that is destroyed, it is the meaning. I am a story of fabrication in mind. Am I more than that? Maybe, maybe not. Am I writing my own story? Are others writing it, carrying the entire human history inside myself? I search for what is me. I want to fly, but there are rules. Can one fly in rules? I want to be free. Free of what? Free of myself. The right hand stopping the left, the right wing moving opposite to left. I am entangled in myself. If only one yields, stop fighting. We can't move if one foot move forward and the other move backward. Why do we want it a particular way when all of it is a story? Why not let it unfold? One can really fly when there is no expectation of destination. Don't write with the notion of meaning that is real. Writing that is real flow. It can never happen alone. A bird flying both by itself and the wind. If one fly against wind, it is flying against flying. What if you just fall and let the wind take you? When all of it is this moment, without doubt, some of me and some of wind dancing with each other, then the story will write itself, a story free of ending, free of itself. I want to belong yet separate. I want to be here yet not here. Give me love but not all, give me truth but not all, rules but not entirely, predictable but not completely. I want to let go but not everything. I want the wants yet not all. Let's have a conversation, taking a pause from proving and disproving both to others and yourself. Can we put our attention free and just observe? Free the heart bound by shackles and listen to its beat. I am not saying it metaphorically. Let us do it. Will you slow down the reading? The words are going nowhere. Let us have a conversation like it is the last. Remove the romance. There is no time for that. What would we talk about if we remove all the judgments? With the world in a race, can we stop, sit on the side and have this conversation? It might not change anything. Can we do this without expectation? Let us remove the labels of any kind of differentiation. Let us remove the conditions on life. Remove the labels. Everything in that identity card, male/female, Hindu/Buddhist/Christian, young/old, owner/employee, all the identity marks of place of birth, time of birth, religion, career, gender, color of skin, language, and then look at yourself and look at others with the same vision. Can we observe both ourselves and others without these labels of discrimination? Talking to a girl/boy should be like this. Talking to a black/brown/white should be like this. Talking to a rich/poor person should be like this. Talking to a boss/employee should be like this. Can we remove these conditions on conversation and just talk human to human? These weights on mind of all sort of relationships. A conversation without expectation, without a desire to gain out of it. A conversation both with ourselves and others. How are you asking this to ourselves and others? Or maybe just a smile, an acknowledgement of yourself and others. Listen, just listen to both yourself and others. It might be hard, you might be holding tough words which will be difficult to listen to. This hesitation to open up, to let down your defenses, this fear of getting hurt. Everyone has it, but we need to start somewhere. We need to take a chance. What if it turns out as painful? But what if it turns out as joyful? Can we stop talking, stop sharing just because of the fear from past memories? Will you jump again without expectation? What if you fall, but what if you fly? If we fail, we will try again. Will you take a chance again so that we can have this conversation? Why do you laugh? One asks, why do we breathe? Can actions be only performed with reason? Happiness is I am happy, it is not I am happy because. A person in love smiles not because of something, it just happens because it is there, lost in ourselves in the clothes. The outer is the answer, inside it is neither inside nor outside, it is where there is no inside and outside. One likes when someone praises them for clothes, yet they question when someone hates them for clothes. The Maya is fine when it is giving pleasures, yet it becomes the evil Maya when it is used against you. The judgment lies inside you. What you apply on the world will be applied on you. The same scooter reduces the effort and the same produces pollution. One can't be without other. Something which can give pleasure automatically has the power to give suffering. Do you also question when you are following the comfortable paths? Do you question the happiness just like you question the sadness? The path to truth is the path of honesty, or maybe it is just entertainment for you, just another discussion for mental stimulation. Do you have the courage to let it all go, or is it just like buying a product from the market, the mentality that everything can be bought, then you will only get imitations, the fake, the copy? The journey is pathless and it might require immense energy. Are you willing to pay this price for truth, not the fake truth bought online while watching Netflix? Another stimulating documentary, another touching song, another guru selling meditation books, another entrepreneur promising to show the end of the world, another motivation speaker. I can't tell you the truth can't be told in words, but I can clear the mirage of fake truth, the lie you tell yourself every night and still feel empty inside. I am nobody, but don't tell me you don't see the corruption in human character, judging others with different standards than yourself. I don't know if these words reach you. The selfishness, double standards, addiction to comfortable paths is so deeply rooted. Question the whole world, but also question yourself. You are not the exception, I am not the exception. The judgment, the hate, the loneliness is both because of outside and inside. The outside can be changed. What about the insides? Where will you run away from what is inside? What if life? You are life. The word life is defined with respect to you, so the only answer or the assumption is you are life. What is not life? It is impossible to answer. If life lies in you being conscious of the world, both inside and outside, then everything you are conscious of is life or part/form of life. What is a human? The circle of similarities extends outwards. It is the way mind has grouped. The first grouping is defined as human. There is no way to tell if the world I am conscious is the same as anything else. Still there are similarities, an agreement, a consent, and all who are part are defined as human. What are emotions? The tools acquired by the mind/consciousness so that the movement keeps going. All emotions lies in relationships with the world, so that consciousness can keep flowing in the world of its own creations. What is time? A sense created based on characteristic of mind called memory. A concept/word derived from a way of understanding which has been proved quite useful. What are all of these answers? An absolute understanding of my world based on relative framework of time. It is valid only for what is defined as present in time. They are written by a personal understanding of present words and most accepted way of looking. These are just words, but these can be life depends on you. The one reading it is just a tree, but it can be life depends on you. Who is looking it is just paper, but it can be money or it can be a book. The sense, beauty is not in these words, it is in you, it is in the agreement of life between me and you. There is no one in your world, the entire world is you. You think there is intelligence, therefore there has to be someone creating it, but the intelligence is in you and it is not absolute. What stops one from blooming like a flower? The sparkle in eyes are the boundaries created by you and me. What stops one from dancing is the judgment of useful and useless. One can't laugh without reason, one can't dance without reason. Who told you there has to be reason for everything? This limitation we have imposed on ourselves, where unreasonable can't exist, where meaningless can't exist. A life defined, bounded reason always loses to love. It has happened before and it will happen again. You can feel it somewhere deep down, don't you? That is why I am writing and you are reading. If the self-love is contained to just the physical body, just the narrow definition of self, and not to the entire world of oneself, that love is just a lifeless copy, an imitation, a reflection. What is depression? It is the reaction of mind just like fever is reaction of body. Mind trying to establish order so the attention is reduced elsewhere. A strict mind will not let anomaly exist and it will drain all energy. Establishment of order or acceptance of disorder are the only ways out. Thought in a loop is a sink of energy. The more central the role of thought and the meaning, order, is, more intense will be requirement of energy. With the new classification of world into mental and physical, we can understand that mental is limited. It is just recycling what already has been created. Nothing new can come out of it, while the physical is ever changing. In the times of now, so much importance is given to mental, that it is highly possible that one loses touch with the other part. The mobile is physical, yet the meaning of images one sees on social media is mental projection. Even the image one sees in physical is somewhere mental too. It is the degree of attention on mental is higher when using mind-created tools. The more the attention is trained on importance, the easier and more natural it will be for it to stay there. With the thought gone deep and deep into concepts, like the dreams, it is very probable that one loses the awareness of full existence. Living in the head will be a very close phrase to describe it. When the mental projection becomes so strong, both because of the importance given to it by society and the individual, that it completely overpowers what we call physical or reality, then it becomes uncontrollable. Mental is a looping machine based on assumptions. If one loses sight that it is based on assumptions and then keep giving it more and more energy, it will completely drain everything out of you. Think of it as a game designed in a loop, and while playing one loses the realization that it is a game. A person trapped in dreams or mental scapes. All the stories that titillate you on any screen, are all being played in mental based on the data you have already gathered. All the books are mental. What only holds value in human mind relies heavily on mental, like the currency note or the modern version of it, cryptocurrency. If you really want to understand the cause of mental health problems, you have to look at the complete picture. If you keep putting stress on your body continuously, without a break, the chances are that it is going to break. Similarly, if you keep your mind in a state of tension all the time, it will certainly result in some mental health problem. We live in a time where taking stress is celebrated though. The culture of more and more piling up of the same stuff. We live in stories of people putting them through stress and coming out as superheroes. It only took 10 vacations in 8 years, it only slept for 4 hours a day. Where silence is termed as waste because it is not taking part in this race. A human bound so tightly by mind that the only end is destruction. By the same logic of value and cost, there will be tremendous price to pay for all of this. If only one can look beyond these boundaries, this converting of everything life can be in numbers. If only one realizes that life can't be contained, that all of this is you happening and it will happen anyways. If only one sits and observe mindfully what all is already given rather than running behind the shadow, the reflection. If one realizes the real you who is life you without any boundaries, one need to be aware of assumptions. When the assumptions forming the base are gone, then the impermanency will be realized, the meaningless nature of words will be realized. Is it the absolute truth? I don't know. The concepts of truth and absolute are also assumptions. Is the realization permanent? I don't know. How do I know that these answers are not derived just from accumulated words? Maybe, maybe not. But the words are making sense without anything explicitly told. Is it fake, a lie well lived? There is no it to be faked. What is written is all based on observations and logic. All of it is open for conversation, and it is not any absolute moral code of living life or any objective answer of what life is. By writing these words, I might have assumed a lot. But the assumptions are made to question other assumptions. I have to stand on some words to question other. Will you read these words just as some anonymous words without forming a base of assumptions and see if there is a sense, a value? And do that for everything in life. Realizing the value, not because of where it came from, but in the real sense of value to you. Like an apple given to you without a name and you have to decide its value. it will require removing the superficial out of real. A sense of awareness, and that is the only way for both you and me to arrive at common value, the real value, if there is any. Whether I tell you the answer or the question, it doesn't matter. If it is coming from me, I can write, can keep writing, but in the end, it will be just another written word. It is all a stupid quest, an assumption that our world is common, that someone else can show the path of the mountain. In your and my mind, our world can be one if we both leave the form and the experiences of the form. There is one place and word for that. In logical sense it is present, and in romantic sense it is love, but all of these words can just entertain you. Even with all the energy, there is no way we can experience the same thing. Keep the honesty with you, and if you have any question, you will arrive at the answer. The question doesn't matter, but a being fixed on questions can't just leave them in existence, bound by cause and effect in the meaningless life. The only way for you is your way, and for me it is my way. Part 3. It is not in the images, the stories told to you and me, it is in the life which you and me are living. I travel from one place to other with an expectation developed by the stories, and during the journey I observe mind trying to find it in everything other than myself. It says, leave everything. All of this is superficial, but this is all there is. Comes the reply, are you sure? Yes. We have seen the entire mind, and there is nothing more than stories you can get. Is there anything beyond stories? Well, people have said there is. Buddha got it. Isn't that is also a story? It is. Is there any way to know whether it is actually possible, whether the story is real? There can't be, right? First, we don't know if what we know of as the story is true or whether it really happened. Second, how much of it, assuming it is a real story, is lost while transferring through time? Third, even assuming all of that, the meaning of the words itself is not absolute. A word keeps changing its meaning depending on the user. However you look at it, the story of Siddhartha, Christ, Shiva, or any such character is in no way different than the story of zombies or Harry Potter. Even this is a story, right? Yes, it is. What is the point of all of this then? Why are we writing? Why are we thinking? Isn't that the main question? I feel it is all entertainment. Entertainment doesn't mean anything. Does it? How will one act then? Our actions are based on meaning, the same way a child acts while playing a meaningless game, but a child can only act like that because it is protected by human system. Child is actually an indication, a hint about the assumptions. A child is the empty vessel. With time, it collects a lot of things depending on the environment it spends time in. It is the loose sand on hard rocks of a mountain. Sand which can move, has possibilities. The story of that vessel getting filled and the loose sand transforming into hard rock, that is the story of a human. A child, the sand is an indication of change, of assumptions, of what is volatile, of impermanence. This story that you are telling, the assumptions, the impermanence, all of this, what is the proof of all of this? What kind of proof do you want? I don't know. How does one verify it? You are saying something abstract. It is like philosophy. Can one look at this another way? Can we say this in words which are easy to understand? Something not just philosophical but have a real, physical observation. The abstract can do nothing for the life. If you are asking if this story can provide food or water or air or whether it can cure illness, then the answer is no. But is that all? Are people who have all of these at peace? Look at the celebrated people of our time, people who are regarded as role model which everyone aspire to become. Someone who can run fast, someone who looks good, someone who can talk well. What is the value in those stories for you? Is the question more than survival? Are not those stories also philosophical or abstract? When someone is regarded more than others, just because of looks. This existence of concept of beauty and others like this, that is also all abstract and does nothing for survival. Why is all of that, and what is all of that? That is what we are trying to understand. To understand human as a whole, not by fragmenting it into needs and desires, but try to understand the base of all of this. If there is any, I think we can clearly state the question now, at least based on the words so far we can clarify a direction now. Maybe these words will be more useful than instead of moving here and there. The answer can't be in words. We can try to reach there through thinking, and maybe it will help in clearing some direction, a roadblock, but the path is for the individual to walk. We are writing these words together, we have no idea whether it will really help or not. What meaning someone will make out of it? It is an exploration with words without a direction, ha ha ha. It is nice to have an open dialogue. It is like you are teleported in a jungle and now you have to make sense of everything around. There is no aim, just an intelligence trying to make sense in the way it can. Should we walk in the direction of stating the question clearly, in whatever limited sense we can? What question, ha ha ha. Where should we start? What about the question of what is life? All the questions are actually one question with different clothes. All the questions of outward direction are based on assumption of the inward, the I. So in that sense the most fundamental question and assumption is who is the one asking the question and why is it asking questions. That went personal pretty fast. Here I was sitting with a comfortable assumption about who I am and categorizing everything left and right. It is so easy to ask questions on the outward. It does make sense to start the questioning with the questioner though, the tricky part is how do we go further? Anything I say from here on, it will all be based on assumption of I. If we use the jungle analogy, till now it was all about what tree is this animal dangerous, what is edible? And suddenly you inverted the frame of questioning and we can't move now. It is a weird place for the questioner to question itself. It is interesting, right? If one is honest, it is easy to see and arrive at this stage. And even we have arrived till here multiple times. The problem is the next step. Now the only guiding light, thinking, intelligence is gone, or at least gone in conception, in imagination. If it was really gone in experience, then that would be the answer, right, or at least a step forward. But this is where the road made by logic ends. The thought of not thinking is also thinking. The train of thought ends here, it is the last station and now one needs to get off the train and go by foot. But somehow we can't get off this train, well, since words can't go any further. Let's sit in the train itself at this last station and see why it is so difficult. It seems to me that the major reason is fear. You are saying it is a station but I can't see anything down there. And from start we established that it is all a story anyway. I feel like curiosity's power of exploration is useless when it is literally the question of death. One will not intentionally walk into 100% death, you are right. It can't happen intentionally. It can only happen without choice. When it is just natural for a river to flow, it is not going to stop at a waterfall. A tree only knows one direction and that is to grow. Now, will the tree stop growing because it knows that once fully ripe, human will cut it for its use? Is there a choice? Fear has no place when it comes to just being yourself, ha ha ha. Quite poetic. Honestly, it doesn't feel like a replicable model. It just feels like a lot is required. But I also am you, so I know actually what you mean. And I also know the improbability of words in expressing it. Anyways, it is late in the jungle, so let us rest, haha. You have taken this role play so seriously. It is exhausting, but then life itself is effort. Will you listen if I tell you something? It might not make any sense, just listen to it like you listen to a bird. When you don't really go for it to mean something, go on, you are the world. It is true, everything you see outside is your reflection. The cat, the dog, the horse, the bird. It is all in you. They are your parts. Similarly, the sea, the river, the clouds, the fire, the Sunday, all of them are also your parts. What the consciousness is conscious of, is the consciousness itself. The suffering is when the parts are not in harmony, not in balance. The fear felt in a cow is your fear, the love given to a dog is you loving yourself, the attentiveness of a cat is your attention, the flow you see in a river is you moving inside, everything is you. What about humans? Why didn't you mention them? It is easier to understand this without humans. Obviously every human you see is also your part. Here we will need to go deeper and understand that the you that is referred here is not the common definition you. I mean, it is you, just without the boundaries. That is why I unknowingly didn't include humans. Now this will be another thought journey and it will again end in same loop like earlier. It is fine, let it be. I promise to just listen so you can continue your bird song. Love is something so out of all of the rational boundaries. The jar inside me fills and then it starts spilling. There is no way to contain it, and that is love. A child yak comes near me, slightly afraid, slightly curious. I stand still just watching, observing. It comes near, sniffs, licks, and then like a flower it blooms, it runs away jumping, full of life, a jar spilling out. That yak is actually part of me which bloomed. It is sad really that the life which is capable of being a lotus, a flower which blooms in sewage water, that life is completely shut out of fear. It is like a person who refuses to see, out of fear of seeing horrible things. We are at a stage where fear has crippled us, and instead of going towards love, we are running away from it. Something still feels unfinished and itching, a feeling of intuition. The movement is still getting stuck, maybe and maybe not. Thought is still limiting it. There is no way though, and there is nothing to be done. Just observe. All that is written here is thought making sense from a perspective. It is not absolute. If we understand, then at most it can be the best possible version of sense of that time. If it is happening inside you, then you already have it. Just the words are to be found. When we are focused only on what can be described by words, that is when we lose it. Like for example the question of what is sex, or what is sleep. Both of these questions have so many assumptions. The words sex and sleep are carrying the burden of memories, assumptions. Then there is the word what, which assumes what will be accepted as an answer. The only question which can work in words is who am I, but then we will again get stuck at the place of question, which question itself. So unless we answer that question, there is no point in asking any other question. You can ask, but with the understanding that everything is based on assumption. It is like every book which doesn't answer the fundamental question should start with a disclaimer that all that is written is based on assumptions, and state those assumptions clearly. Every constitution, religion book, mythology book, every science book, every documentary, news, any discourse should start with this. This is true in literal sense, but practically won't it make sense to solve immediate questions like gender inequality, the exploitation of poor, climate change, etc. Isn't philosophy actually a privilege? Philosophy done for the sake of discussions and mental stimulation of pride is privilege. If we really want to go deep and solve all these issues, not just change their forms but actually solve them, the only way is for humankind to address the fundamental question. Now this is not to say that don't do anything unless you have complete clarity, but having the humbleness along with the action that we might be wrong. This humbleness can pave the path to love and compassion, making the burdens of rights and wrongs less heavy. In a more tolerant, open world, it is what we call an ideal world, an utopia. I think we have long strayed from that path, and there is no point in talking about something not practically possible. It is the sense I have created which according to me is the only way for peace. Love and openness are the key ingredient if we actually want something to happen. If everyone agrees, it can happen. It needs to come from the insides though, outside force will only make it worse. There is nothing to permanently gain from life anyways. Discard every story including this story. It doesn't matter how much you aspire, someone else's world can never be yours. Stop buying second-hand stories and start living the one you have. Every lie that you will live will put a knot inside you. Twisted, bound in itself is that the life you want to live, you versus me, has no end. The hate will not go away, it will do as much damage to you as to other words have stopped reaching inside. They have become shallow, hollow. But if by any chance these words reach you not just to the calculating mind but to the heart, then try to fill your life with love rather than hate. Fear stops the movement of love. Achievements, ownership limits love. You think the destruction, death, pain is caused by just somebody with hate. It is caused equally by somebody too sure that they are doing good things. The villains are not just outside, it is inside you. Ignorance has blinded us. What according to you will happen if we keep living in assumptions, without the clarity of what is all of this, life, human, death, time, questions? Nobody can predict future, but as science does, we can guess some direction. By logic, only death can pave the way for life. Day dies for night to be born, a river dies for sea to be born. In a sense it is all transformation. Similarly, ignorance has to die for knowledge to be born, either it can die by letting go, or it will be stripped off. Only the truth is permanent. We are role-playing, but what we are saying is some serious deep shit. Ha ha ha. We don't even know if it is making any sense to anyone. That is all we can do, share our answer. After that, whether or how someone understands it, all of that is not in our hands. Life can be so complicated yet so simple. It is like life is zero. A person who identifies itself with counting will try to do what it can. It doesn't need to do anything. Even if words won't be understood, love/experience can still pierce through. The question of life and death, what it is aware of is itself, what it can know is itself. If you call it life, then only life is there. There is no birth and death. Basically, on top of what is, everything else is the way of its existence. The way, the meaning is fabrication. Birth and death are defined relative to a world assumed to be always there, but the world that is there, the total of you and everything else, is just another way of existence. That world existed before you and it will exist after you. This sense of time is also part of one existing. I am getting a lot of observations on thoughts. Actually, we are getting a lot of words in that area, which is helping in creating some order in stuff related to thoughts, control of thoughts, methods, and tricks. Okay, let us see what we have understood till now. There is an intangible entity named mind, out of which another intangible entity named thought is produced. It feels like all the actions have this thought as base. That is the vague establishment of the game of mind and thought. Let us move forward. The movement of thought, or the working of thought, is based on conditions. The first condition is logic or rationality. It is the basic concept of cause and effect. It can also be looked as duality, and this is where concept of time comes from. Like the tangible moves in space, the intangible moves in time. This feels like most basic movement of thought, from time A to time B. We can build further on it, but there are still some gaps in it for the puzzle to come together. Overall, it feels like the problems of thought comes from contradiction. When it defies itself. First, I think there should be morality, that honesty should be practiced, and then I don't act on that because it might be difficult, because of desire, conditioning, or any such reason. This wish to eat the cake and have it too, to be here and there both, to train the mind in habits and then trying to break the habit. If some thought is given the power, the authority, the importance, then it is like a machine, it will automatically use it, based on its accepted initiating conditions. The truth is one. Everything written, told, taught other than that is effort to make order in human understanding. That order is just temporary, which needs to be redone again and again. Are we really honest? We are saying all of these things, trying to act superior like we know everything. I don't know, somewhere it feels like wrong direction. You are right. And I am not just saying that. In reality, all that is written here can be bullshit. That is why logic along with doubt can keep us honest. If what is written only have life because of the background story of the one who wrote it, then the words are not really understood. All of this writing is me trying my best to be honest and describe the sense of world, the way I see it, so the answers can all be fabricated, or maybe the answers are all subjective and only work for us. It is highly possible that the answers fail at some point. These words are conversations with the reader. Conversations to explore together and not one-sided declaration of truth. And for the subjective nature of answers, I agree 100%. All the answers are related to our own questions. Let me summarize on behalf of both of us. For the present moment, we have peace and some answers. We are not sure if the answer is absolute, is it permanent, and is it objective. It is actually an effort to engage in an honest discussion. To discuss the meaningless nature of the discussion. To see if there is a common ground between all of us. Words are like clothes of meaning, meaning which is the body, the substance, and the meaning lies in experience. The analogy of words as clothes and meaning as body is a good one. Or maybe not, as meaning ideally should be intangible. We are living in a world of imitation. Someone saw the sea and used words to describe it. Those words are not the sea. Now people try to copy the words, the clothes, the outer. They copy what can be seen by others, what can be shared, what can be owned. The word can be owned, it can be copyrighted, but what the words are pointing at, that can't be owned. We memorize the words, it is just like copying someone's clothes. Can we become someone just by copying how someone looks? It is nothing more than someone trying to imitate, act a real-life character and thinking that by imitating, it has known everything the real person knew. Sadly, because of our hypocrisy, we appreciate the actor more, we don't care about the real, we just want some shortcuts. Someone who has really seen the sea, won't be slave to words. As the sea is infinite, there are infinite ways to describe it. Someone who has seen that life is a theater won't try to become the lead actor, it knows that it is the only character. How does one know it is the imitation? It is not possible, right? We have discussed this before. Logically it is impossible. Experience and logic can filter it though. How does one knows whether it is a real bird or a sound in a computer? How does one knows it is sun or light from a tube light? How does one knows whether it is a flower or smell of a perfume? It is hard to explain it more than this, as we have already ventured away from logic. The problem here is we have not seen the real flower and experienced it fully. Won't it be impossible for someone who has not experienced a real bird, to tell what is the sound of a real bird and what is just coming from a speaker? Now we have actually arrived at the real problem. Even if we arrive at this decision that it is impossible, then we can put aside everything and venture to find the answer. At least, we can start to see that there is something fishy. That it is not possible to sell the answer in the name of spirituality or any other name in stores. That the answer can never come from outside. The phrase control of mind is misunderstood. First, it assumes there is something else which is trying to control what is called mind. Isn't it mind itself, trying to control itself? According to me, control of mind should be replaced by understanding mind. Once you understand how it moves, why a particular thought feels so powerful, how a particular thought arises and goes away. This understanding will help one see the full picture of mind. Once it understands itself, once the structure, the order is realized, then it will unwind and the question of control of mind will melt away. Do you remember when we talked about what the consciousness is conscious of, is itself, and everything it is conscious of, is its own part? I remember the one with Yak. It was very poetic. LOL. That same establishment can vaguely be used to clarify the concept of karma and rebirth. Let us not do it. LOL. Words are useless. What happens suddenly? The realization again of the fact that I don't know. Every word and sense feels useless. Something is there and we are trying with words to make sense of it, but the entire effort to do it, it is all so temporary. Spending so much energy in something which is not even fundamental and just revolves around present times, times which can change in a beat. We need to be aware of that, even though we are engaging in discussion regarding mind, thoughts, consciousness. All of these are just words/concepts. They are products of what actually is. Products defined by using assumptions. We are not discussing these because the truth needs it. In fact, it is opposite. All of these concepts need to be discarded, and the only way is to understand it and let it go. I see the river flowing in front of me and no word can make any meaning out of it. It can't be captured by anything cooked up by a human. Being human bind in a cage of repetition day and night, and day again hunger and food, and hunger again problem and solution, and problem again life and death, and life again tired with the time searching for newness. Once it is found, it goes away. Curse of keep going round and round it goes. There is only one problem. One smokes and it goes away, only to come back. One gets promoted and it goes away, only to come back. Temporary solutions. Is there freedom? Is there a permanent solution? Are we really asking that? Like really? One does not switch off the lights. How will we see the stars? The paradox is one is trying to see light with a torch to listen to something. One needs to stop speaking. Can you listen through speaking? Way of looking is not looking. Way of looking is you stand on one peak and look all around. You saw all around, but did you see the spot you were standing on? There is an assumption. A spot which is dark, which is not looked at. Isn't this again a paradox? It makes sense, but how will one get around it? There can be two directions. The basis is whether one has a picture, an image of what one is looking for, like searching for a dog with a picture. The second possibility is one has no image, it is a search of new without any expectation of what is to be found. In the first case, because one has an image, it should place their complete trust in it and let the one looking go. If one is looking without an image, then go with that. It should be a new discovery and one should be able to take risk and let the one exploring go. In both cases, it seems like taking the assumption the base to fulfillment will do the task in a way. It is a believer being true to itself and believing it to the core, without a doubt. Believing it 100% that even the one believing, the believer, is nothing in front it. Second is the explorer, one who only trusts the experience, no beliefs, that one should become an explorer to the core and jump in 100% darkness, risking it all, letting go of the one exploring. In short, we can say it is being true to yourself. Being true to your starting point and not being afraid to take it to completion whatever the price if the task is to let go of the one looking, the awareness of I. Then logically if we wrap the entire spectrum of I in one irrefutable condition and then have the I face the condition it is based on. For the one with I based on logic, on questioning, the question will spiral back and question the questioning I. Let me state it again and we can discuss about it. There can be only one truth. We are not talking about the subjective description of it but the objective nature of it. And we are not talking 90% truth or 99% truth, it is truth and not truth. By assuming logic, by assuming duality, by assuming truth and false, start and end, cause and effect. We can be sure about one thing, there has to be one truth, one start, one cause. There can't be multiple starts, right? Otherwise it is not a start, there is something behind it. If logic is considered as base, there can't be truth of psychology, truth of physics, truth of mathematics, truth of Buddhism. It will all converge theoretically at one point. This statement is based on assumption of logic. Logic which is base of language and any thought system. Logic which is the only way to talk, to discuss, to arrive at what is common. Not a personal answer but an objective one. If there is no past, no future, if there is nothing to gain and nothing to lose, if all there is what is, how would you be? Will you be tight, stretched, judging, hateful, loud, protective, anxious, or will you be gentle, loose, observing, loving, peaceful, open and calm? Now even if we have not realized it whole, can't and don't we have moments in day, in life when you just be effortlessly in what is? I wonder if all of this, these intellectual type words and abstract concepts, these books, all of it, is it really important? When I talk to someone whose life is just earning money to send back home, all of this feels so redundant. Do you get it? What is the use of all of this for them? I understand what you are pointing at. And it is a valid observation in the context of few people sitting in VIP rooms, deciding how life should be lived for someone you mentioned above. Do you wonder why this kind of situation is there in first place, where one person doesn't have any time to question and someone else doesn't have to do anything else other than engage in intellectual thoughts? The root of all of it is same, and in the limited resources and limited access, one should question any and every assumption, but it might not change anything for that person at all. It might not change anything at all for anyone. Or it might forever change human consciousness. You don't think it is superior to think about all of these, and it is inferior if someone doesn't ask all of these questions and spend this much time on them. There is nothing superior and inferior. Everything and everyone is playing their parts. It is weird and interesting to see this quest of thought, people trying to reach Mars, cure most difficult diseases, new forms of art, new ways/systems of governance and all of that. And on the other hand, somebody growing food, creating mechanical parts of a machine in a factory, transporting goods and people. If you see in an open way, it is all connected, yet there is a hierarchy with more importance given to thought and new, and because of this hierarchical viewpoint in the minds of most people, it is important to deconstruct the mirage/illusion in the way it is built. When mathematics, logic, science, experiments, modular structure in thought, and all subparts, all of this is the accepted way of our times. Then only way to cross-check a system of thought is to apply it on itself and see that there are no contradictions. Isn't saying it a mirage reaching to conclusion. What is illusion and what is real? Isn't it all thought or something like that? The substance is real, the meaning is an illusion. It will be hard to go deeper than this as we will get stuck in wordplay. Let me kind of state it as an example. What is real is what is. This eliminates past, which is just memory, and future, which is a projection. Now in what is one experiences something, that experience without meaning is real. If one sees a mountain, that without the concept of mountain is real. This example is not so well thought, so don't take it literally. It is just to show the outline of what I meant by substance and meaning. What is love? Is it real? What is love? It is when it doesn't matter what is real, when the boundary of mind is removed and the infinite is unbounded, when one removes finite identities, then everything is you. Love is what doesn't need to be kept, it doesn't need efforts to maintain, it is what can't be found by finding it, it will come by itself, it is not conditional, it is not directional like sun burning to give light, it just gives light without any condition of who will receive it. Love is what a human can be. How can anyone love unconditionally? It means loving someone who has committed heinous crimes too. We have touched something very sensitive here. The area of morality, right and wrong, crime and judgment. Let us first clarify the base. Crime and degree of it, is based on a moral code of right and wrong. So let us first discuss why there is right and wrong. Where does right and wrong lies? In intention or in action. Killing is considered wrong, but then killing in self-defense and killing by police and judiciary is accepted. Not to talk about indirect killings of suicides, by hunger and poverty, by diseases spread from factories, in wars, in the name of religion. So many types of killing which is accepted, and not just accepted but demanded by the same people who will say killing is wrong. So in that sense, I guess it is the intentions and not the action. Are you realizing the problems with this concept of right and wrong? Intentions are so volatile. It is not possible to know whether it is a personal choice or it is brainwashed by surroundings. In some ways we are all conditioned by surroundings. Who accepts the responsibility if a child brainwashed from childhood commits a crime? There is another factor of ignorance. A worker working in a gun factory and those guns are used for a genocide, or building a bridge with incomplete knowledge of that time leading to crash. Do you see how the mirror of right/wrong gets muddy? I feel what you are pointing is the impossibility of execution. What about the fundamental concept of right/wrong? It feels like an extension or another form of the duality of mind in terms of desirable and not desirable. The collective non-desirability of a particular intention then slowly transforms into a more harder right/wrong. That criminal was once an innocent child, just like the one sitting as judge, the one who is the lawyer, the one who is writing, and like the one who is reading. Who am I to judge what transformed that child into someone cold, self-centered, violent, radical person? Is it that child's fault or ours? How does a child capable of immense love grows up as an adult who runs away from love, who detests love? Shouldn't we look more deeper into why it happens? Shouldn't we be doubtful and guilty somewhere? The problem is much deeper. Covering it with fancy covers of right/wrong will not make it go away. Will we only think about it when it is us at the receiving end? Where is life? Is it in working diligently 9 to 5? Is it in listening to rap, Sufi, pop? Is it in admitting to spiritual institutions, or is it in constantly solving problems whether real or fake? A jar of I is there empty but filled with emptiness, just the jar of I, jar of consciousness of I. People come and put in it what they can. Kind person puts kindness, harsh person puts harshness. Is the stuff inside mine other than the jar? What is really mine? Stories of jar, of emptiness, of I. Story to say that everything is a story. Story searching answer in a story. It was an empty jar and it is an empty jar. Where is life? Are these words life, or the one writing is the one reading life, or the meaning of what is read? What do you think? Where is life? If one identifies oneself with the stories in the jar, one will not be able to see the full jar. The rest state, The default state is for the awareness to be spread without any constraints. The state of tension is collecting and compressing that awareness, that attention to a very narrow field. Now the part of associating, attaching yourself to those stories. It is going to happen, it is natural when from start, one is conditioned to identify with name, sex, color, ethnicity. And all these limiting, narrow identities. Even if one realizes the suffocation because the alternative is emptiness, letting go, one feels it as impossible task. Letting go will feel like cutting a part of oneself. More is valued, less is feared, nothing matters, less is more and more is less. What do you think will be darkness, or the ultimate form of suffering? Wow, where do you get these questions? LOL. A lot of it is extrapolation and imagination. Let's see if we can build a thread of logic through it. Darkness is when truth is dead, and there is no trust, when everything is closed tight due to fear. It is the moment of paralysis of thought, complete arrest of its movement. One will close their eyes, shut their ears and trap oneself in dark rooms. Now one will think, why would anybody do that? It is because there will be nothing except fear in mind. Darkness is not invasion by aliens, or some robots taking over, it is when the movement of one moving is seized. The desires will make it want to move, energy will be given, but fear will bind it and won't let it move. And all of this is done to oneself by oneself, so it will be a perfect trap in nothingness. Ask a person with severe depression or anxiety and you will realize, the real hurt, the absolute suffering is inside. It is not death, it is so much fear that even suicide won't be an option. You have experienced glimpses of it. When out of fear, you are not able to speak, or act. Now just apply that to complete inaction, and the root of action is thought. Desire is thought of movement, of action, and fear is thought of hurdles, of inaction. Now imagine a mind doing both at the same time. It is absolute stillness but infinite efforts. This is what is opposite of peace. I think you got what I am pointing at. It is already happening. If one open their eyes, we have arrived again to zero. It is looping again and again. It is hilarious to keep writing and arriving again to the conclusion that it is all stupid. It is like a thought which can't exist without meaning, yet it knows the meaning is imaginary. It is a stalemate. What to do when we are playing on both sides and we reach stalemate? It is all entertainment anyways. The entire game of life is all a bonus entertainment. It is there, so it is there. When it is not there, it is simply not there. If it is all stupid and meaningless and we need to choose at least one option, then I feel it's fine, right? We choose the stupidity which comes natural, and in a way writing all this is natural flow for us, natural stupidity. Haha, when it comes to organized stupidity, people will get offended if one do it lightly. The mask of seriousness, even fake one, is the only way appreciated. The quest to decide a meaning, coming out of how can all this be meaningless, has resulted in this stupid charade. If only one let it go. Ha ha ha. Till the time there is either ignorance about what life is or a meaning not understood, it will go on. If life is seen as a game, then that game can be played without being serious also. When the losing side enjoys it as much as winning one. Race starts, conflict happens, when in a game of win/loss everybody wants to be on winning side. We know, if the game is there then somebody is going to lose, so the entire focus shifts to me, even binding oneself in fake morality, pretending everybody can be winner. Just having the concept of winner gives birth to loser. It is not that we have not thought about it. Systems have been proposed and tried, but every system fails because it is not based on love but on some idea of morality devised by mind. Basically no system will be needed if love is there. And that is the only solution, but we need something which creates meaning, and thus the loop starts again. When the question is understood not as control of mind but as understanding mind, then the next step to understand any thought, behavior is to see it whole. From the start to the end. What brings the thought and how the thought goes from intangible to tangible. Observation of the entire scene from an impartial place will show one how it is happening. I feel at times, why can't I share this? I am trying through words and some people say it is quite good. But sometimes I realize the loss in converting it to words. Who are you to give anything to anyone? You don't own it, that you can share. And this assumption of value, all of this is just mind trying to give meaning to what is actually meaningless. You are right. In the end, it is just about living. For sun to be the sun and fire to be fire. Whether someone uses it to cook or burn someone's house, that can't be up to fire. It is at these moments, I realize the intensity and clarity of love. Love which is not sacrificing oneself but being oneself. The question of next, the absence of future and present. The tendency is to close the open ends. Reality is, open ends can never be fully closed. Going deeper, beyond the conception of time, it is just tension in thought. What is definite, but what can be is thought exercise. So finally, it is how tense living at that moment of time is. Looking at one way life can be thought as, the more efforts are made, the more one lives, the more data one collect of experiences, the more one lives, the more one feels the emotions, the more one lives. If life is looked as movement, this will hold true. The issue is the movement in loops. Now is that movement really movement? Haha, quite a place we arrived where we can't deny or accept. Movement in loops is also movement, but looking it from concept of time, it will feel still. Like this writing, a movement where it goes to stars, yet it always comes back to the same place, that it is all entertainment of mind. These words are thought given the instruments of pen, paper, language, and access to all memories. And then it just dances, like a child, here and there. Sometimes it goes deep on one path, sometimes it just jumps around, sometimes the path is like a linear staircase, sometimes it is like a mountain trek, wild and uncertain. In the end, all of it is a story. The conception of path, distance, deep are all different games. Something is moving yet it can't be caught in words. Like one plays the game of chess, or pubbage, or cricket. The concepts of that game are all imaginary, yet something which is nameless is moving through all the different scenarios, stories it has created. What is it that is moving? Mystery. Haha, lie down near a riverbed under an old tree, watch the shadows fluttering, the heart-beating wind washing you down, watch the chirping birds and forget that the world is somewhere else. This is it, the last, first, and only moment you can have both in romantic way and real way. Too much significance attached to meaning makes the one living hard to be. Narrow sense of morality, of high ground makes it easier to calculate and prove that living can be more or less. Living is living. Nobody lives more and nobody lives less. It is just and just living. Until it is not, where should we head now? To the endless loops. There are no loops if there is no perspective. But then there will be tension. Blah, blah, blah. Haha, let us write a story of a human. He was born, he received a form, with the form are associated all forms of differentiation, and differentiation looked from place of arrogance, of ego, of judgment is discrimination. So he received discrimination. That discrimination is the inheritance. It has come from enjoying the discrimination when in favor and criticizing when against. So he received something when he was born as millionaire, an upper caste, a white skin, and all of what is looked as virtue, something desirable. Then he took it as granted and never questioned it. The same consciousness then was born as poor, a lower caste, a black skin. And then it questioned it, the inherited. There is non-desirable in both cases and there is a free availability in both, yet in whatever form it comes it only sees the world as right and wrong. It never questioned the happy times. What was free but happy, that was never questioned. It was and is always biased. Like life is free, it is desirable to keep living, but with life comes death. There is no choice in that. Keep death and life both close and at equal distance and it will wash away all discrimination. Consciousness doesn't only have judgments, it has love also, but he can only appreciate what is bought. He has been told again and again the rights and wrongs will he let go, not just which gives discomfort but also what is comfortable. He is both the oppressor and the oppressed. He is both the victim and the criminal. He sees the glass as half full or half empty. Will he able to just see the glass? What happened later? This story seems again like the loops. Haha. See, a story starts with once upon a time, and end with a conclusion, a moral. Okay, let us start again. Once upon a time, a human was born. The moment it was born, Time started. Human was born means being human, that started. It is a story which started because the storyteller started. Both at the same time again the intellectual sounding riddles. Come on, let us tell a story like you are telling a child, haha. The child, I feel, will not think like you are. It is this complexity inside you which is not accepting the story unless it is told like you want, fair enough. Let us go on then, in whatever way you want to tell it, life, human, death. How should I say this? I feel like having a conversation, but words and page is all we have now. Conversation can be more open compared to one-sided writing. Why does one feel entangled? Why does a heart feel so heavy? The more one tries to own, control, less will be the space to move or the ways to move. This is what is attachment. When one binds or associates the identity of one with money, or any sort of meaning, value, then it becomes a never-ending effort to try to move with all constraints of attachments. It goes deeper than this, but we start from here. From observation of what is happening. Like the accepted human system enforces curfew, but desires want it to move in some other direction, and the fear of death pulls it in other direction. This will produce tension, will stretch one who is attached. That is why one feels entangled and the heart feels heavy. This is an attempt to understand the experience in ways and concepts widely accepted. Maybe it can be better explained, understood by a different visualization, but for now let us work with this simple model/example you have shown. I as separate from emotions, from relationships, are those not I itself. It is not possible to know till where I really extends. And from where the attachments start. It can be seen like this. What is felt, observed is see. Where attachments will not feel separate but as one entity. Whether they are really some inseparable parts, it can only be known by subtraction or removing them one by one and observing what happens. The place of love, the place of nothingness, yet everything is there. What doesn't stop by death, what doesn't stop by time, it is that which is always there, it is that which never gets over it, not newness, it is not attachments, it is the light and dark together, it is me and you together, it is the small sparrow and it is the slightly afraid cow, it is the flowing water and it is the clouds, all of that is in you, I am also in you and you are in me, it is the fullness in emptiness, it is possible, it is here and everywhere. If something is possible, how does one communicate? Let us say it is a new dimension of existence. In itself it can't be new, as that happens only in comparison. Yet it feels new in itself. It is exploration. The real depth of a question is the full question, which is the answer. Nobody can know new or old relative to others. There is no way experiences can be tagged by a common word. There is a weird dimension in communication which assumes complete familiarity with the word uttered by other as a sign of experience. It is just living without asking why. Even the redundancy of communication has to be communicated. It is never ending. Dear, you will read it again in future, because the nature of a river is to flow, and what can flow in circle is bound to revisit same place again. There is nothing that can be told in words to help you though. The only hint is observe the observer. Only you can know yourself and your world, so remove everything told to you, and even though there is no fixed direction specified, you will figure it out. What can be discussed in words is the logic. And through the assumption of commonality of logic, we can try and build a sense/order in the world of words. There is a lot that can be talked about, but all of it will eventually come down to the ability to differentiate. That is the fundamental on which I isolates it from rest. Differentiation, which is the ability to separate, like in visuals, which separates a cloud from sky, which separates shades of red, in sound, which separates instruments playing. All of what on gross level can be observed by senses is actually a fundamental quality of mind. Senses are just ways it gets executed. Another word which is the base of all conflicts is discrimination. Differentiation, when looked from a biased perspective of desire, is discrimination. Differentiation parts it in two, like black and white, foreground and background, me and world, left and right, male and female. And discrimination is when white is considered better or superior or is preferred, when me is preferred, when right is preferred, when male is preferred. This preference creates hierarchy which results in conflict. This way of looking at it as differentiation and discrimination is also a way of making sense. Nothing that is written here or anywhere else can help you in ways other than creating a deeper understanding. But whether that understanding will be more than intellectual debates, whether it will be more than you scoring more in life, all of that is up to you. And contrary to common sense, the actual end of this understanding is not knowledge but the realization of ignorance. The more one flips the layers of our existence, more it will realize the superficial nature of the meaning in it. Whatever written here is all stupidity, it is written from point of view of what is generally the sense of our time. It is like 1 + 1 = 2 is accepted as common grounding pillar of our time, and I use that foundation to question what doesn't add up, to question if adding up can ever be big enough to fill us. There is nothing that can be given from outside. By reading you have given permission for something to change in you. That is openness. But everything is you, and any change that can happen will be you. There is nothing to be had from this life. If we really understand this, then life will become so easy, so much more loving. How do I communicate that all you have is? Using the dimension of memory to project past or future is fine for practical purposes, but all of it is centered on the one projecting, don't forget that. Listen, you there, I am always here, I am you, LOL. The human consciousness is only conscious of human world. The consciousness in itself is the world. Think about it, in the end human can only sense, can only understand that which lies in its capabilities. Like the act of seeing, if all of it is just some part sensitive to light, then it means all that can be seen is light. I kind of get it. If we separate the signal from the meaning of signal, then all we sense is the basic signal. Where are we going with this though? No idea, just like everything that is written before. I kind of like this, when thought moves without motive, it is freedom and it takes less effort, so is more peaceful. The poetic me, haha. Going where the wind takes us. Wandering in the jungle with curiosity, with peace, sit wherever we feel like, walk whenever we feel like, there is no compulsion to talk or to stay silent. That is what it all comes down to, when one realizes that laughing is also effort, just like crying. When one naturally detaches from both and peace comes down. The peace of the coconut tree to be itself. Now if wind breaks it, or a human or a bird uses it, there is no worry of all that. It is a beautiful place. One feels at peace even in the mid of a storm. Going in a different direction, I think honesty is the most important pillar of our existence. Honesty may not be truth, but in the state of ignorance honesty overlaps with truth. The deepest and purest acknowledgement of one and others is honesty. Can there be living without honesty? Can there be love without honesty? I agree, no question can be answered if one is corrupt. There will be no way of knowing or evaluating the answer if we can lie to ourselves. In general also, what is corrupt is a mirage, it is twisted, it is divided, knots of contradictions will not let peace be there, slowly it will bind one in illusions and the knots will stretch and stress. It is not easy to live an honest life though. From childhood parents use dishonest tricks to control, consciously or unconsciously. Then the teacher at school is not honest, the foundation or the initial period of life is all about manipulation. The later period of college, job is anyways filled with, saying not what is true but what works. And we sell the intangible, the truth, for the mirage, for the temporary tangible things. We are stretched from both directions. First the individuality is created and it takes so much energy. You need to create your own name, your own identity, brand, and all that. And then it has to be let go, the identity that you associate so much with. You are just another number in population, just another vote, just another opinion. This hypocrisy of having a contradiction creates tension and traps one inside oneself. There has to be a willingness, an effort based on honesty, to really look with an unbiased eye. If we start measuring efforts against output, then one can never look. Everything whose value/cost analysis can be done, is already seen. A new experience has to be explored from openness. All of this is useless efforts for someone who has already accepted some ready-made answer of what life is, of what it can be, of how it should be lived. Honesty, I don't think there is any point if the question doesn't come from inside. The addiction, the useless gratification which is transient, the movement in loops, all of this is only useful information or knowledge if it comes after self-reflection and not just picked from a book or discussion. The addiction to pleasures of senses won't let one question though. And even if one questions, it will be to have mental orgasms and not to really find out. It is all just looping around. One who is really looking will find it no matter what. Still, action has to be performed. One needs to keep the story moving forward. Wow, so many abstract words and deep shit. I think in all of this, one central highlight is non-availability of open discussion. Everybody is told, informed, influenced, forced, nobody honestly walks together. See, now even I am using fancy words. What I meant to say was a place where anything and everything can be discussed, can be analyzed from a position of indifference. Whether it is knowledge, or questions, or ignorance, differentiation or discrimination, everything can be discussed openly, and isn't that is what is love?